Good afternoon, everybody. 27th of April, 1 o'clock, singing Vielle, Google Hangout. Right, let's just go through a few initial things. We are CPD accredited, so you have to call us or email us if you want to get your CPD certificate later after the event. That's the first thing. The next thing is remember to sign up to YouTube, and that way you join our YouTube channel and you'll receive notifications of everything we're selling, and you'll hear about the Hangouts. And remember, now we are on podcasts, so you can listen to me, Dale, Graham, and our guests when you are running or walking the dogs, any time. So remember that. Now, today is a first because this is the first Google Hangout on site. So I'm sitting in sunny Manchester, which was sunny, but it's now raining. And we are today with me, we have Dale.
Hello.
We have Graham.
Afternoon.
And our guest today is Paul Unger, who is the publisher of PlaceTech.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm just playing around with my controls slightly. Okay, so let's just talk about Paul. Paul's going to tell us all about PlaceTech. I'm up at the event in Manchester. I've been involved with one of their events today, which has been really interesting. So PlaceTech is an online tech-focused property publication, and Paul's going to tell you all about it. And tell me if I'm incorrect at any time, Paul, let me know. PlaceTech began publishing in February 2018, and it's the same team behind the established Place Northwest. And Paul is a journalist. He graduated and he worked at the Liverpool Daily Post and Echo in I don't want to give away his age. And Paul set up Place Northwest in 2007. And PlaceTech is very interesting because it is the only property tech-focused publication. So I'm in Manchester, and I've been attending the Trend Talk at the Bright Building, which is really interesting. So I think we'll talk about that in a moment. Paul's going to tell you about PlaceTech. So first of all, let's do our roundup of deals and what's going on in the world. Dale, over to you. Over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. Okay, let me just give you a quick overview of what's been going on since our last Hangout. In terms of, just to give you a quick idea of recent deals we've done, we recently exchanged on the sale of an industrial estate ground lease investment in Bolton for £1.9 million. This was a rare opportunity to acquire a very highly secure investment, which had an average 67 years unexpired lease term. The sale generated some strong interest, which resulted in us closing by way of a click-to-purchase online best offers, with us exchanging contracts online with the top bidder at a yield of 5%. In terms of deals we've got currently in the market, we've got two retail investments which we are offering for sale by click-to-purchase artificial intelligence online auction. For those of you who aren't familiar, our AI auctions, what they do is completely emulate the traditional auction experience, but online. And the AI auctioneer, Gabby, as she is known, will manage the auctions directly, and the AI provides complete security and transparency to the auction room. So anyone interested in participating, the first property we're auctioning in about 3 weeks' time on the 16th of May is a shop in Rugby let to Holland and Barrett, who the tenant's been trading since '99 from this store. It's let off a rebase rent, and we're guiding £450,000, which is 6.4%. The second property which we're auctioning the following day on the 17th of May is a shop in Torquay let to William Hill on a new lease from 2016 at a rebase rent. The guide price on this one is £265,000, the very attractive manageable lot size and a high yield of just over 10%. We've got a few bits which we're offering for sale by private treaty. The first of which is a mixed-use retail and residential investment in Fareham. which is a ground floor shop let on a new 10-year lease with a 3-bed masonette above. Currently let on an AST, but there is planning in place to build out 4 further flats. We're asking £525,000, a gross yield of 6.4%. In Plymouth, we've got a really secure investment in the town centre on Cornwall Street with about 70% of the income secured for just under 40 years to Grand Metropolitan Estates through a AAA covenant. The asking price on this is £665,000, 7%. And a couple of final ones, a roadside investment in Oxfordshire, which is a petrol filling station and convenience store, let for another about 10 years with a guaranteed rental increase. We're asking about 1.1 million, which is about 8.5% or so, rising to a guaranteed about 9.5%. And in Ivybridge, we have a supermarket investment let for over 10 years to the full co-op group. Only supermarket in the town. Tenants spent about £1 million on the building, fully committed, and we're seeking 2.73 million, 6.5%. I think Graham's got a few sales in Scotland, which I'll let him briefly give you an overview in a sec. And just to mention, we do have some new sales we're working on coming up. So happy if anyone wants to get in touch to get some more information. We're going to be offering probably next week a multi-let mixed-use retail, trade counter and industrial investment in the northeast on a really prominent roadside location, fully income producing, add value opportunities. It's going to be about £3.5 million, about 6.5% with a guaranteed uplift to over 7%. And we're also working on another roadside car showroom investment in the northwest. Let to a good covenant long lease.
Good. Scotland. What's going on in Scotland, Graham?
Scotland. Yep, we continue to market the All Saints in Aberdeen, an absolutely cracking unit, right in the prime pitch of Union Street in Aberdeen, 1.7 million, 7.25%. A very, very nice building in High Street Air, let to Superdrug for just over 3 years. Opportunity to regear the lease and get some nice secure income from Superdrug. We're offering that at 11%, which is a pretty attractive yield. Like Dale, we're working on 2 or 3 other things, 2 or 3 just nice tuck-away single-let retail opportunities, and another bigger one with asset management opportunities. Recently concluded the sale of the McCalls in High Street Dundee, and just about to conclude the sale of the Sally Beauty unit in Perth. So it's all good, but our news, which we can't quite reveal, Neil, but as you know, we've been speaking to somebody about coming on board to boost the numbers in Scotland, and that should hopefully happen in the next week or so. So we're bringing somebody into the team in Scotland to help develop what we've got so far. So that's very exciting for us.
Good. Yeah, we'll grow. Great. Okay, right. I'm gonna bring in Paul now. All right, Paul is going to tell us all about PlaceTech. How's that? Right, Paul, hold on. I'm going to turn you on. All yours. Paul?
Okay.
Tell us about PlaceTech.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for asking me to take part in this Google Hangout. It's the first one that I've done. So far, so painless. Yeah, thank you for that, Neil. And thanks for taking part in our PlaceTech Trend Talk this morning, the first in our quarterly series of those events here at the Bright Building with MSP and Bruntwood and our PlaceTech partners. Yeah, so we set up PlaceTech the last few months, started publishing in February. Basically, it was a culmination of a growing interest in all the tech that's coming into the property industry, probably going back 5 or 6 years when we did the first PlaceTech branded event under our existing Place Northwest publication in 2012 around data centers. Remember when everyone was talking about building those and selling those, and smart cities, and some of these sort of buzzwords were coming into the property vocabulary around that time. And ever since then, I've been following from a sort of business to business publisher's point of view, following who's writing about that, who's covering all the tech that's coming into property, and seeing the existing trade titles doing a good job within their own sort of spheres, within their own verticals for agency developers, planners, architects, etc. But they were dipping in and out of it. They've got everything else to cover, and a lot of it was around the sort of strategy, the impact of tech, how to prepare for it, and very much. Sorry, looking at Dale. Is my microphone okay?
Yeah, we lost you. I lost you, but you're back. You're back.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we thought there was a gap in the market for all of the activity that was going on and having that covered every day, and the people want to know about the specific products and services rather than just the sort of general disruption chat. They were taking their head out of the sand and ready to make some buying decisions, but didn't really know where to start. So we see that tech in application story as being our sort of mainstay of showing these are companies like you using tech, these are the partners they worked with, these are the products, and championing those that are adopting, educating, having how-to guides, sort of jargon busters, some very simple entry-level editorial for people that are maybe too afraid, too embarrassed to put their hand up, so they can start dipping their toe in it, really.
Okay, well, I just, can we tell everybody where they'll find you? The website is
PlaceTech.net.
PlaceTech.net, and as someone who actually is now following it since launch, it has some fantastic articles, and I would urge everybody to subscribe. I think it's a really interesting area. There's no other magazine that or publication that I'm aware of which is specifically linked to property and the PropTech world. So I think it's a really interesting place. I would urge everyone to get involved and everyone to start watching and start following. I've got a couple of questions actually. Paul, what's been the reaction since you launched?
Launch in two launch parties in Manchester and London in mid-February. The reaction was fantastic. A lot of people turning out to those. Obviously in Manchester, in our heartland, from Place Northwest, a lot of friends and contacts and clients and followers wishing us well with the new venture. A newer crowd to us in London. We piggybacked on PropTech with a Q, PropTech Europe, and we were a partner there and used their event as a sort of springboard for our launch, and had a drinks reception straight after that. And that was a European tech crowd, and with a few property people there, but very techy. And people were just relieved that something had come along that could market their products and services for free, and tell their stories, explain their products, the benefits, the features, and they've been waiting for it, and they seem to agree there was a logic to it, that it should exist, and you know, surprised that there was nothing out there already.
Where do you see the PropTech space going at the moment? Because it's all come in the last couple of years, but do you see, is there a momentum?
Definitely, and I think it changes every few months. It seems to accelerate and mature, and the discussion changes. And 2017, it's not just my view, but you know, a lot of the sort of bloggers and people writing the predictions pieces at the turn of the year were saying 2017 was very much about getting used to the terminology and people being familiar with PropTech as a concept. Whereas now it's very real. People are actually putting money into it. There's a lot of VC money flowing into it. A lot of the agents, the big global surveyors and multidisciplinary groups are starting to invest in startups, and it's starting to get real now, and it's some areas faster than others. AI is being talked about a lot. Blockchain's obviously close to your heart. It's being talked about, and there's still a long way to go, but people seem to have woken up to it now.
It's what's interesting is in your publication from this morning, you've got the estimated investment into PropTech by 2020 by the Investment Property Forum is 17 billion. 17 billion. 17 billion. So actually, and we've obviously got a PropTech side to what we do. So I wouldn't mind a little piece of that 17 billion. I don't need much. I don't need much. But I think it's very interesting the way it's going. I'm going to talk about today's event. So today's event, for everyone listening, was the Trend Talk, which was fascinating. It's in the Bright Building in Manchester Science Park. And we had various speakers. There was some, which I think Paul actually could probably run through probably better than me in terms of their backgrounds. But what was interesting was, so I've written down some of the interesting topics that were discussed. We had Tom Wren and Bev Taylor from Manchester Science Partnerships, who developed the building we're in. We're in the Bright Building at the moment in Manchester Science Park, one of these leading tech. It's an amazing building, really amazing. We had Nicola Woods from a company called OBI, who is an interior designer, and what she was running through was how tenants are demanding quality space, which I suppose sounds obvious, but if you look at the way the buildings are being fitted out, they're being fitted out into an environment which is very much something which the tenants are demanding. Nice hangout areas, food courts, funky. Whereas in the old days, it used to put in suspended ceiling in the carpet and you expected to let it, but I think the world's moved on completely. So those guys were speaking to the room today, and there were a couple of very interesting things that I thought out of what they were talking about, as well as yours truly, was they were talking about energy and how energy is being the national grid and how you've got the challenges of energy supply and controlling it. One of the things that I thought though was very interesting was from one of the other companies who was presenting, someone called Clive Hall of a company called PlaceTech. And what he was explaining is how as a business, they are able to advise clients on the footfall from shoppers in their various streets and shopping centres, but also the behaviour. So what occurred to me was that actually should start impacting upon valuation decisions and also on investment decisions. The investment decision, I suppose, is quite obvious, but in terms of a valuation decision, if I'm selling a building and I can show data to show that there's X% more shoppers go past my shop and stand outside, rather than in the old days, it was all about location and how close you were to the prime pitch. I think it's actually moving to a different world now where you're using tech, and tech is going to come into valuation and investment decisions, which it hasn't actually yet. So that's one of the main things that I got out of this morning's event. But I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about how you're feeling, but I thought the event was really interesting, great today.
Yeah, no, we were very pleased. It's the first one that we've done. As I say, it's going to be a quarterly series. We're going around Europe with them as well. And we wanted to have a sort of fast-paced event, not taking too long into people's days. So a couple of hours where they could just get a snapshot of some of the tech that's out there, some of the hot trends, and people can start to immerse themselves in the people that are doing this day in, day out, and move from that sort of position of ignorance and Ludditeness, some would say, in property, and get out there and meet and touch the tech and the peers that are doing this. Energy, you mentioned, there's outside here in the car park, there's now a Tesla power pack battery, and they're looking to take this building off grid in the next 12 months. Which is, I think it's the first commercial property to be fitted with one of those in the UK. That's a huge area, and in terms of the sort of behavioural implications for energy and having sensors monitor where people are and adjusting services within buildings accordingly is is a huge area. You mentioned tech as occupiers. There's a crossover with things like sensors as well, in a similar way to the energy, picking up the movement and how much space is used, and meeting rooms, things like that. You did a great job yourself on the blockchain, and I saw there's some interest from people coming over and speaking to you afterwards. I know there's some very exciting ideas around blockchain in property, and even at a city level, people are talking about how they can maybe have sort of Bitcoin for city type thing, and raise revenue for boroughs and local government. And then in the second half, we had a bit of fun with some sort of short showcase pitches from some tech companies. You mentioned the retail monitor, which is very powerful. Place dashboard just takes information off mobile phones, basically anonymized from existing apps, travel apps, maps, things like that, and they can see where people are going, and taking it through to the automated sort of prediction intelligence now, where they can say what the impact is likely to be if they lose X retailer off a retail park, because they've seen similar evidence from other parks. Giraffe 360, Micus presenting. They've got a beautiful product. It's very, very simple, one button, and it does very high quality HD 360 photography, floor plans. It's got laser built in. They're getting some real traction. And then there was Hark as well, doing some very clever stuff with environmental monitoring of temperatures and power within buildings, and starting to tell asset managers what they've got, and putting that into old buildings and old spaces as well. Just getting the basics right, really, to start that baseline data of letting property owners realize what they've got, and then they can start deciding what to do with it.
Great. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I thought it was, like I say, and I assume you'll be putting something online about today.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been filmed. It'll be written up on PlaceTech in the next week. Yeah, so look out for that.
That's what we'll do. We'll publicise it when it goes online. We can tell our audience as well, and hopefully it will help people then see how good the publication is. And I think they'll learn by it. I think the more people embrace, the better. So should we just jump around to some news? What's going on in the world? Dale, you had some points to make about what was happening, didn't you? You want to talk about AI?
Yeah, well, I read something which, I mean, obviously Paul's just mentioned.
I can hear you. Hold on a minute, Dale. Say that again.
Oh, can you hear me?
Not very well for some reason.
Hello?
Can you hear Dale?
I can.
Okay, go on, carry on.
Yeah, I can.
Paul mentioned AI, and I obviously mentioned that we've adapted in our business with our AI auction. So I read a report this week about, just about how the property industry is embracing AI, that 48% of London law firms are already using AI, and a further 41% have imminent plans to do so. And it's predicted that the use of AI will result in job losses in these firms, particularly at junior and support levels, whilst AI is obviously going to take over from those particular roles.
You know what they're doing it. You know what they're using it for. Do you know what they're using it for? To a large extent, to read documents. So if you're buying a building, you've got 100 documents to read. The AI can read it in a couple of seconds and give you a report. So all that mundane, crunching of going through leases and saying when's the rent review, etc. I mean, I did it in my youth when I was at Jones Lang, and now it's all done in a second or two by the artificial intelligence. And the thing is, they learn over time, because it's not. One thing about AI is it learns because there are mistakes made, and it learns to correct them. So I think that's very interesting. We are, as Dale has mentioned, we're using artificial intelligence in our auctions, and I just want to come back to that. We've got it because, of course, we're associated with the click to purchase business. Our auctions emulate the live auction experience, but online. And I don't want to mention a competitor, but there was a competitor doing an auction yesterday, an online auction, which I have to say was really dull. You're just watching a screen and you're watching a number change. And I don't think in any way that emulates the traditional boardroom experience, and I don't think it coaxes bidders. What we do is we entice people in. We're saying, hello everyone, welcome to today's auction. Are you any more bids, etc., etc., etc. And now we've got an artificial intelligence which is actually controlling it. The key about artificial intelligence is that it's beyond manipulation. So it's all about putting faith in the process for the consumer, and the consumer is the bidder, and the bidder therefore can bid in real time against a computer generated auctioneer, knowing that no one can be tipped off. And I think that's the way the world's going. I think AI is it will impact on our industry as well, much more so than it has already. So that's my view anyway. You see much AI? Have you seen much AI?
There's been a lot written about it, and I think the conversation is sort of it started with big flag waving, scaremongering sort of headlines about job losses. I think people are realizing that AI is going to augment some of the processes that you mentioned about in law firms, reading documents. They're things that maybe humans aren't very good at quickly, accurately getting through 100 documents. A piece of AI software could do that better, which frees up the time for the lawyer to then use their intellectual human skills around managing that information and doing a better deal. That doesn't see them out of a job, but it's just something they're better at than the AI, is the sort of judgment, the relationships, those human skills.
On that theme, I agree completely, because on that theme, what we're finding now is there are lawyers actively embracing what we are doing in our side business of click to purchase, and they are now looking to do exchanges online, even though they don't legally necessarily need to do so, because they can do this formally via exchanges. By doing exchanges online, it gives them an audit trail, and it gives them a level of accountability and transparency. So they're beginning to combine the AI and other tech into their businesses. I think lawyers actually have probably been slower, if not as slow, but certainly pretty slow in the same way as agents to adopt tech. But there's been a huge shift of attitude. I think they've sort of woken up to the fact they need to do something. So I see that as if I noticed today, you had quite a lot of lawyers here, didn't you? Yeah. So that's now. Dale, next, what's your second thing? Which actually I did mention to Paul, which I thought was very interesting.
Well, the Colliers. Yeah, again, I don't know if anyone's familiar. I hadn't come across it, but I read about, and again, this is just further signs that prop tech is changing our industry. Colliers have launched something called the Colliers Prop Tech Accelerator, which they're doing in association with a company called Techstars, which they say is a first of its kind program that identifies and mentors startups who are developing industry disrupting technologies in the property and real estate industry. So they're focusing on solving problems and challenges in the industry, and they specifically say this includes blockchain solutions and AI applications.
Blockchain. So basically, they want to invest in us, in effect. Basically, yeah. Yeah. Graham, what's the attitude to tech up in Scotland? Do you think you're further ahead of us?
No, well, as you and I have discussed on various occasions, Neil, we're still hampered by the restrictions on electronic signatures, which is very, very frustrating. You know, the Law Society have introduced electronic signatures to be used, and I think that was introduced almost a couple of years ago. And I know from speaking to many lawyers, they sit with dated card readers in their drawer, and nobody has ever adopted it. So it's a real challenge to get certainly the legal profession to embrace the technology and move forward with it. And I think once they do, then it will move at a pace. But at the moment, the frustration is nobody wants to use it. Your
frustration is do you think, of the legal side rather than the agent side?
Well, definitely. Well, yeah, because I think the introduction of electronic signatures in Scotland has been promoted principally through lawyers, allowing them to use electronic signatures. And I think from a property industry point of view, all the agents will sit up here and not, as far as I can see, really do much with PropTech. And once the lawyers move forward with it, then the agents will all think that's a good idea.
Well, what will happen is this agent, it's like anything about, in my view, in PropTech. First of all, when it puts money in your pocket, you adopt it. If it doesn't put any money in your pocket, you won't adopt it. If other people start taking money out of your pocket, you'll adopt it. The issue with, I know a little bit about it, the issue with the electronic signatures restrictions in Scotland is, dare I say it, whoever wrote the legislation doesn't really understand technology, because I've looked at it inside out, and they basically made it almost impossible to generate legally binding electronic signatures in Scotland. So that's why no one's using it. If it could be done, we would certainly be doing it. And I actually even question this card reader business. I'm not even sure that actually accords with the requirements of these statutes in Scotland. Anyway, I won't go into it, but I think that I've seen this in other in other countries actually. People writing legislation around how to use certain items of tech don't understand the tech themselves. No question. I mean, I say that I'm not going to get done for defamation, am I? I haven't mentioned anyone by name. Anyway, so that's happening in Scotland. But other than that, I think I don't see any difference in the Scottish market in terms of technology. The national firms are looking to change anyway. So I think there's a general change of mood amongst the agency community anyway, in my opinion.
Well, I've not seen any obvious signs of it so far, but yeah, certainly there's a new development just been announced in the city centre. It's going to be the most green-friendly, techie office development in Glasgow, and it may well be. But
see, I think it's all very well being green. It's about whether it saves you money, and if it saves you money, you pay more rent. If it pays more rent, the investment value is worth more, and that's where it's all going. It hasn't gone that far. It hasn't gone in that way yet, but I think it's now happening, and that's one of the things that came out of the event today, I think. Does anybody want to ask Paul, our tech journalist specialist, anything? I think, Dale, didn't you want to ask something to Paul? You told me.
Mine was a completely untech related question. I was just going to ask Paul. I was interested because I see, as Neil mentioned, you started out at the Liverpool Daily, Post and Echo, and you sure have a long and successful career in journalism. I was just wondering who the most interesting person during your career you've interviewed, or if anyone stands out.
Oh gosh. That's
sorry, I put you on the spot.
Wasn't expecting.
I thought he was going to say Derek Hatton. You're too young, you don't remember Derek Hatton.
I've never. Before my career even started, my work experience was for a law firm, and I had the pleasure of spending 2 weeks at the Ken Dodd tax court trial. Obviously wasn't a journalist then. I was only 16, and that was with somebody that was working for a Swiss bank, keeping a sort of listening brief to see if they would be mentioned by Mr. Dodd. But that was great fun, and got to see the late George Carman, barrister, amazing cross-examiner, and his relationship with the judge, and his summing up, his classic sort of something to leave the jury with. And he said something about not a lot of comedians are accountants, but there's a lot of accountants that are comedians. And needless to say, Ken Dodd got off on all of his charges.
Actually, I'll tell you. I've also got a Ken Dodd story. Want to hear my Ken Dodd story? I was buying a sofa a few years ago, and the lady who took my order, her name was Dodd, right? So I said, "Oh, any relation to Ken?" She says, "Yes, it's my uncle." So I said, "Well, I know what we've used to stuff the sofa then." So I thought it was very funny. She didn't think it was very funny. I thought it was very funny. Anyway. So anyway, I think any more questions for Paul? We said, oh, how's PropTech changing the industry? We've discussed that one already.
Obviously, Liverpool are going to win the Champions League. If you want to ask about football.
Yeah, I'm not a football fan actually. Am I allowed to?
Oh, Paul, you're barking up the wrong tree.
To me, I find it a bit dull, really. Did I hear you say something, Graham?
No, I just said don't try and engage in sport chat with Neil. It falls in deaf ears.
Okay, moving on.
Actually, that's very unfair. That's very unfair. I'm a highly sporty. I just don't like football. Anyway, okay, guys. Look, we've been on for our normal half an hour. Has anybody got any particular topics? I thought I could mention. I could talk about ICOs and cryptocurrencies. Just to wrap up, I'd like to try and bring new topics into the conversation. Let me talk about ICOs very quickly, and I'll tell people what's happening. An ICO, for those of you who don't know, is what's called an initial coin offering. And there was a real buzz, I would say, up to the end of 2017. And it was a question of people who had a blockchain-based business would be using ICOs as a way to raise money. So what they would do is they would tokenize. So for example, in Click to Purchase, we license the use of Click to Purchase to customers. But what we could have done is rather than actually send them an invoice, we could sell them tokens. Like, the old days of the pools, and you send them tokens, and each token would be used for a particular event. And as their tokens reduce down, they would then top up their accounts online. Well, that's tokenizing. The idea behind ICOs is that I would issue 1 million tokens in the business. I would only release 200,000. 100,000 might be bought by customers who wanted to use it, but the other 100,000 may be bought by speculators who think, well, I like this business, the demand for the tokens is going to go up, therefore I'll buy some tokens because they might be worth £1 today, but they'll be worth £2 tomorrow. So you're creating a currency. The value of the tokens goes up. The 80% that we hold back goes up in value. The company makes a lot of money. That's the basis of ICO. You're creating a cryptocurrency. But I think that what's happened is there's been a dramatic change. I think the governments are clamping down, and I think the way that cryptocurrency took a bit of a hammering in the last few months has actually undermined the whole ICO and cryptocurrency world. Paul, do you think, I mean, you must have had lots of people talking to you, saying to you, well, you're writing about tech, you must be writing about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's one of those things that comes along, and I don't think of myself as a techie person at all. I've never really been into gadgets, and you think, oh gosh, have I got to know everything about cryptocurrency? And there's occasionally we get copied into things on Twitter, and it's these companies that are launching ICOs, and then it's the brokers and the traders and gamblers, if you like, that are debating about the value of them, and the sort of hype and the lingo that goes with it just completely leaves me dead, really. But luckily, there are people out there that can translate that and pick out what's relevant for property, and we've had some great contributors writing for us, explaining some of the property cryptocurrencies that are out there, and people can check them out for themselves, and readers, they don't need us to recommend or put them off. They'll decide for themselves whether they think it's worth getting in touch with, and that's a lot of what we're doing, is just signposting people to interesting things. Some of them will fly, some of them won't. It's interesting, just going back to what you said about Colliers, that the last year or two, we've gone from having 1 or 2 real estate, tech, venture capital funds, investment funds, to now every week there seems to be another one. And Colliers, the latest, you've had CBRE pile in, Cushman and Wakefield in the past. And it seemed to go from, in the early days, seeing, oh, we might find the next Google, or we might invest in something that becomes a £1 billion business, getting very excited, and then realizing there's thousands and thousands of businesses out there. A lot of them seem to do the same thing or very similar things. A lot of them aren't very good at selling and explaining what it is that they do for property and what the benefits are. And it's moved from the surveyors sort of buying individual businesses and agencies and things, and and taking equity in digital startups to now realizing that they need an expert, they need a full-time tech fund manager to spot those opportunities. And they're using funds as vehicles to make their investments for them, really, on their behalf. It still begs the question, where is all this money going to go? Billions of pounds of investment going into it. Are there enough decent, backable products and services out there, or is it good?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I would say, yeah, I agree completely. Because actually, the funny thing is, if you said, if you were to name, I said you name 5 prop tech businesses that have really done something in the last year, it's hard to find. It's hard to think because there's loads of them around, but it's actually how many are actually making an impact. And with all these tech businesses, at some point they run out of money. So is there a need, and is there a demand? Is there a demand from agents and clients and customers? Because they might be the most fantastic idea, but they're solving a problem that doesn't really exist. And I agree with you. I think that you have to wonder where the money's going to go. Maybe they're trying to hedge their bets. Maybe they're hoping they can find a tech company that will help them have an edge over the competition. But I actually think that, I'm not sure why they're trying to do it. I think this idea that I want to have something which my competitor hasn't got. I think the world's changed really, because they'll have a different version. They'll create a different version in the same way you had Matterport as doing 3D imaging. The company 360 Giraffe today is a similar company. So you just create competition within your particular area.
Going back to what Tom Wren said from MSP this morning, if you've got property companies that traditionally haven't spent any money on research and development because it just wasn't seen as part of the necessary model, then should they be putting money into tech that's out there in terms of taking equity in external businesses, or should they be spending money on an R&D budget for their next building or their portfolio and say, how can the user experience, the efficiency, the resilience of this building be improved, and look more sort of internally and at the projects? I guess it's slightly different for the surveyors, but nevertheless, should they be looking at enterprise solutions within their own offices rather than trying to spot the difference between two similar sensor makers out in the market? So it's interesting. It's part of the evolution, I suppose, and we'll wait and see what happens.
Okay, so look, I think we've run over. We are 3/4 of an hour in, which we're 50 minutes over our schedule. So I think unless anyone's got any particular comments they want to throw in, I think we can probably wrap up really. Anyone, Graham, want to tell it? I don't know, Graham, anything to particularly add? I'm not sure about the Scottish market.
Not at this time, no. See you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so we keep watching Graham. Graham's doing a fantastic job building the brand up in Scotland. So I think really, I think we should wrap up. I need to give everyone a question. Every week we take a question. I pose a question from the discussion in order to get your CPD certificate. So the question today, I think appropriately, is whose trial did Paul cover when he was a youngster? That's your question. I think it's a good question, isn't it? That's
very good.
Right. So, Paul, thank you very much. We appreciate having you, and thank you very much for inviting me to the event in Manchester. It's been really interesting. It's been a really good day. I've really enjoyed it, and we'll help publicise your PlaceTech as best we can. So we'll send a link out, and hopefully people will go to the magazine and go from there. So thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate it. Graham?
See you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well done, Graham. Thank you very much. Dale? Actually, I always get confused. Is that Dale or Graham? Hold on. Is that Dale or Graham?
Oh, it's the same chat.
I always get it confused. Anyway, thank you, Dale. From sunny London. I'll be travelling back soon. Okay, guys. Look, so thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And our next Hangout is in 2 weeks' time, and we'll announce the guests shortly. Thank you very much. Bye.